very senior people.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had some lunch. I hope it wasn't too much, so that Dr. Yunus doesn't have to throw things to keep you awake. Can you pass the picture, please? And, I'm very pleased we're continuing our seminars. And I just wanted to show you a photograph of Dr. Yunus a few years ago. That's you? Yes. And we have some others, but those are a bit confidential, so we're not showing them. When I present Dr. Yunus to people who don't know him, which are very few, I always say that he has a barcode that is tattooed, so he belongs to the center. He's an asset of the center. And there are very few people who can really enjoy the trajectory that Dr. Yunus has had in the center for a long time. He joined in 1968, and he became an international scientist in 2004. He has led the whole project in MATLA for a long, long time, and he has a sincere appreciation from a huge amount of people around the world that he has collaborated with. He has helped to develop and to conduct research that has been published in the best journals of the world: Nature, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, etc. And I also would say he's one of our institutional memories, people who have been in the center here and have seen a lot of things. So I hope that in this new phase that we are trying to push ahead, he will join us to lead and to help us to convince people that change is needed, and that the changes that he has seen in the center over the years have made the center a better place, more congenial, more productive, and certainly much better for the future of the younger scientists of this country and others who come to our doors to study. So I hope that we can count him as one of the standard bearers of this new moment, and that he will continue to help us to move this institution along. He's going to talk to us about the evolution of MATLAB as a health research center, and the title of his talk is Barge to Mainland. Dr. Yunus, please. That's you?
Yes. Yes. Now I recognize. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum to everyone. It's my pleasure to talk to this audience, this distinguished audience, on 50th anniversary of ICDDRB and its predecessor organization called Pakistan CO2 Cholera Research Laboratory. In short, it is called PSCRL. I am very pleased to be able to celebrate this with all of you, and particularly I'm still on board, on the job, so that's my additional pleasure. And my third pleasure is that I am very pleased to see the people with whom I have worked, I have started work and worked over the years. I can name few, like Henry Mosley, who recruited me, Bucky Greeno, I worked with him very closely, Richard Cash, and many others. I don't dare to name those with whom I have worked over the years. And so I'll try to take you to MATLAB at this moment and try to show you how things progressed from a barge to mainland. MATLAB once was an unknown place, even in Bangladesh, But today, I think Matlab is globally known for its public health contribution in public health, and even there are places where Bangladesh is not known, but if somebody utters the name of Matlab, people recognize, oh yeah, Matlab, yes, that's what many people told to me, and I have also faced this kind of situation in abroad. So without wasting further time, I try to concentrate on my talk. So I'll talk in two sections. One, I'll firstly talk in terms of physical evolution, in terms of physical infrastructure. Secondly, I'll talk in terms of scientific research areas and health services evolution over the years. So I need to go back before Matlab, because before Matlab was Pakistan CO2 Cholera Research Laboratory, which was established in the year 1960. So, and that is the institution under which Matlab was established. So that was in December 5, 1960, and that was opened by the then Director General of Health Services, Pakistan. And here you see a picture. This is Fred L. Soper, who was the first director of the then PSCRL. He worked in here from 1960, December 1960 to March 1962. So he was the man who put all the things in place and set the stage for conducting research on cholera, particularly cholera treatment and prevention. And then Dr. Abram S. Benenson came as the second director. He worked here from July 1962 to June 1965. I bow to his wisdom, because he is the one who decided to establish a field station for conducting field studies on cholera. That was in 1963. So after 3 years of founding of PSCRL, a field station was established. And this is the location of Matlab, which is very clear. You can see this is Matlab, and this is the Matlab study area. Why Matlab was established? Why Matlab was chosen? Matlab was a highly cholera-prone area as per public health report of the then East Pakistan. And I like to mention Dr. Fahimuddin, who was the Director of Public Health. He provided the information, and he worked and discussed with Abram Benenson about the place selection. The Matlab is near from Dhaka, which is only 57 kilometers southeast of Dhaka, and it is very accessible. It was very accessible by riverways only, waterways only. You can see the rural Bangladesh and Matlab, and that's the sailboat. You will hardly see these nowadays in Bangladesh. It all has been mechanized and modernized with engine, but that's the typical Matlab, typical Bangladesh back in 60s. And this is the main means of communication in Matlab, was the main means of communication. Still it is, though there are road communication available, but for bigger communication, for carrying of goods and etc., it is still the main communication. This you can see the water use behavior, and particularly of the group who are vulnerable to cholera. These are the toddlers. You can see in a muddy canals, the children are playing or catching fish or doing all other activities what usually these toddlers do. And you can see a cholera patient in here, with very severe dehydration. Cholera is a disease. Among the medical emergencies, cholera is probably falls at the top because it can kill within several hours without active replacement of the fluids and electrolytes. So here is a picture of Dr. Fahimuddin, late Dr. Fahimuddin. I pay my great respect to Dr. Fahimuddin, and who took those pains to help Dr. Benenson to select Matlab as the field station of the then Pakistan Cholera Research Laboratory. On October 4, 1963, Dr. Fahimuddin, accompanied by Dr. Robert Ossison, who was the chief epidemiologist in the PSCRL, and also a Bangladeshi scientist named Dr. Kadir Khan, deputy epidemiologist. They decided to go to Matlab to assess the feasibility and local condition whether a field station could be established there. And that trip was taken by this jet boat. PSCRL used to maintain jet boat communication from Narayanganj port city to Matlab, and they took that boat, and that trip was eventful. They started very early in the morning, took the jet boat from Narayanganj. They drove half an hour, and unfortunately the engine got out of order. But Bob Ossison was not only an epidemiologist, he was a great mechanic also. With the support of the drivers on board, he, after trying for an hour or so, he could fix it and restart from a place called Munshiganj. And they started going towards Matlab. About 5 to 6 kilometers away from Matlab, the boat again got out of order. And by that time, it became about 2 p.m. And there were information to Matlab that they are going, so there were people waiting, and they were concerned. There was no mobile phone, there was no ways of communication. They started again, Bob Ossison started fixed it, and ultimately they reached at Matlab at 4 p.m. And many people were anxious what happened to them. But ultimately, they went there, had a fruitful discussion, came back, and while coming back, also they faced the similar setback of engine disorder. But ultimately, they could reach Dhaka. And that was an expedition which helped in selecting Matlab. But after that, Bob Ossison took also trips to other places further south, near Faridpur and Borishal, which are also similarly cholera-prone and cholera-affected areas. But he took those, but those places, to go there, one need to cross the Meghna river, which is one of the biggest river in Bangladesh. Meghna is one of the mightiest river in the world, and she becomes furious during the monsoon. So after taking several trips, Bob Ossison decided no, as the only Matlab, and Matlab could be the place where we could set up our field station, and finally Matlab was selected. And at that time also PSCRL used to maintain a ship called Joseph's Model. I think Baki Grinu would recognize it. This was the only means of communication from Narayanganj to Matlab. It used to take 6 to 7 hours, and so it used to go every day, come back next day, go next day, and come back next day. This was the usual routine, and I heard that it used to create huge wake in the river. The community people were very unhappy about it. They were complaining because of the smaller country boats were plying in the rivers, and also the fishermen, etc., they could be distracted, and sometimes they were capsized, so they objected. After all those things, the ship was abandoned. And Joseph's model, I should tell you, the Joseph's model was instrumental in establishing PSCRL in Dhaka, being in USA. He was one of the main think tank for establishing this under the banner of the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. So the first PSCRL field station or hospital was established in Matlab. The objective is to conduct cholera vaccine trials and epidemiological studies. Before barge, only for a few days, it was based in a district council dispensary, where it was a small dispensary used to be run by the district council. It was based there for a few days, and then at that time, Mr. Amar Bashir was the admin officer. He got information a barge, British barge, is lying idle in Narayanganj. This barge used to be used by the British to control river pirates in the river. And a judge used to be sitting, a sitting judge was there, police was there. If they could catch a river pirate, the trial was instant, and there is a jail inside the barge, and he was put in the jail for some time for confinement as punishment. So when the British left and this barge got independence, it was here, and so ultimately Dr. Benenson and Mr. Bashir worked with the government, took this barge, towed it to Matlab, and placed it for establishing the field station. So that was in end of 1963. Nobody can give me the exact date, but I know it was December 1963. Bucky Greenough can remember probably, because he came in 1962, I think. So the barge, lower deck of the barge was converted into a hospital. It could accommodate only 6 beds, but during the cholera outbreak season, patients were treated in country wards surrounding the barge. Upper deck was the residence for the doctors, nurses, and the office space. Sorry. So office space was right in here, and there are 3 rooms, and a 10-person could be accommodated. This was like a train bunk bed, so 10-person could be accommodated in there. So it's like a small house. And I lived in there. Bucky Greenough, Henry Mosder, Richard Cash, and many others lived in that barge, worked there. And this is, when I look at this, I think this is my base. And we had speedboats as part of our ambulance service. And this is a real picture inside the barge, and Bob Gordon, who was the scientific director for clinical studies, he is seen discussing a patient management with the doctors. And Bob Gordon, what I heard, that he used to start very early in the morning, take the jet boat, and reach Matlab before 8:30 a.m. and took rounds with the doctors at Matlab, nurses, trained them, provided direction, guidance, and came back in Dhaka by 10 and take the rounds in Dhaka. Those kinds of dedication I have heard. I have not personally seen, but Bucky Greenough must have seen these hard working scientists. So we were working in the barge, but it was almost nothing compared to the needs for space. Having no other alternatives, the PSCRL continued to work in the barge, but in 1966, the then East Pakistan government decided to establish a rural health center in Matlab, and they started construction. The then PSCRL management negotiated with them, shared cost, and when the construction was completed, the by an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, the hospital and other activities moved from the barge to the, to this building. So this was a ditch. Now it is not a ditch, it is a land, but it was in the ditch attached to this building. So shift from here there. And then barge remained as the guest house, and international, national visitors and scientists and staff lived in this barge as their place to stay over there, where there was nothing in the town. It was not a town, a bigger village. There was nothing, no building or anything to rent or do anything. So everybody left there. And as I mentioned, we had speedboats. Speedboat needs maintenance. So the lower deck was used as the maintenance workshop, upper deck as the guest house. Even after moving to the government rural health center, space needs was gradually becoming greater and greater, because demographic surveillance system by Henry Mosde was established. Then cholera vaccine trial started, big vaccine trial started even before 1966. There was small scale vaccine trial as kind of pilot. Some clinical studies already started. Richard is here and there. So Richard and Deb Nellin started clinical trials over there also. More staff recruited, number of patients increased, and in early 80, government rural health center was converted to a 31-bed hospital. So they need space. PSCRL or ICDB needs space. What do we do? Then I, along with my colleagues at Matlab, discussed at length, and we decided to propose to Baki Grino. Proposed to Dr. Baki Grino, but before proposing to Baki Grino, I discussed with Mr. Bashir, because Mr. Bashir was the Associate Director for Research Development. So without his support, without the fund, exploration, if we buy land, then we could not construct or do anything. So I discussed with Mr. Bashir. Mr. Bashir agreed, yes, if you buy land, I will try to find the source for that. So we jointly went, Mr. Bashir and I went to Dr. Baki Grino, and I, with all hesitation, I approached him that we want to buy land in Matlab. He was not surprised, because he used to know Matlab, he used to know the need for space and etc. So he said, well, what do you need? I said, I need some money. How much? I said, it's only 400,000 taka, that is 4 lakh taka. In terms of dollar, it was only $20,000. And he approved that. That was a landmark decision. So we purchased land. It was a lowland. It was under 10 to 12 feet underwater. And after purchase of the land, there are other stories which I am not going to tell, because I can tell on these land and construction hours, but I am not going to do that. So when we purchased the land, for the first several years, we were doing agriculture over there, because it's an agricultural land. And my friends and colleagues, both national and expatriate, they was to tease me, well, Yunus got crazy. He has purchased some water, and he cannot do anything in that water. So, but I was not discouraged, or I was not disheartened. We continued to dialogue with the ICDDRB senior top management, and fortunately, In 1987, UNDP approved fund for construction of the Matlab Health Complex. The reason they approved, because we had a land. Though it is underwater, if I have not had purchased that water, they would not have invested. Then if I say that we want to buy land and then construct the, so go, forget about it. So we said that we have land, so we want to construct our own health complex. And by that time, UNDP invested in Bangladesh on quite a number of projects. Those projects were completely unsuccessful. I remember in one discussion, he said, we have so bad experience, why should we invest more on this front, like construction of health centers or nurses training, etc. We assured him that if you invest, you will see that it is being used, continuously being used, and would continue to be used in many, many years in near or far future. He was convinced, he agreed to provide us the fund, agreement was signed, and the money was channeled through the government. So in 1988, we started the construction. We selected the contractor, and then we floated tenders to purchase land. This was a big intensive kind of building. So we needed 2 million bricks. We floated tender. The contractors were so greedy. They quoted 2.5 times of the price. And then in one meeting, it was almost abandoned that no, it's not viable. Then we proposed that we will buy the bricks and then we'll construct our own complex. But there was a ban by regulation because we cannot directly purchase with cash money. Then again we approached Dr. Grino, and he was kind enough to make an exception to meet the audit rule by an order that yes, go ahead, and we started construction in 1988, but we had a bad luck. 1988, in Bangladesh experienced the worst ever flood in recent memory in 1988, and we started construction in sometimes in April or so, and everything went underwater. We had to suspend it for several months. Then we restarted in December 88. We completed the construction in 1989, and in February 1990, we shifted from here to this newly constructed health center of ICDDRB. And this was opened by the resident representative of UNDP who approved the fund, Mr. Charles Henry Lassimont. We formally opened it on June the 6th, 1990. He's the gentleman, he passed away, we heard, and he's the gentleman who opened it formally, and this is the picture showing the prayer after opening. To us, even after construction of a large building, most of you, I think, have seen Matlab, but to us, and particularly to me, it was not complete. No health center could be considered complete without adequate training and facilities, training and residential facilities, because it's a research center. We need space for scientists, we need space, an international research center. We need space for donors, visitors, as well as trainees. So we are looking for funds, and ultimately we were successful to get funds from the government of Japan. And so in 1997, the fund was approved. We started construction, and in 1998, in the month of June, we started operating the training center. Again, we had some stories and debate about the site and etc. Some senior top management proposed to me to construct the training center just across the kitchen. which is back of the hospital, and back of the hospital is always remains unclean, dirty, and etc. But he thought that he could save cost. I never agreed. Then I had to go to my boss, Professor Patrick Bond, who was the Director of Public Health Sciences Division, and he negotiated with Demese Hapte, the then director, and director gave the final order the no, because we left, deliberately we left place for construction, further construction. My thinking was the training center and then a dormitory type of facility for the students and for some of our staffs for temporary resident and etc. So finally, we could build in the place which we thought is the most appropriate, and some of you might have gone there, you have seen where it is located, and what feedback I got from many people, they like the training center. We formally opened this in 1999, and His Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan, who opened this. So, to me, Matlab became a complete health research center in 1998. What are the features of a complete health research center? In Matlab, we had the longitudinal health and demographic surveillance system, which is the longest and largest surveillance system in the world. Large supportive community of 220,000, a 120 bed hospital covering both diarrhea and maternal and child health, a modern diagnostic laboratories, 4 community-based sub-centers, 41 fixed-site clinics, well-trained staff including community health research workers, expertise on hands-on training. Of late, we have established an automatic weather station to keep pace with the change in the world, because climate change and associated implications for health and other issues is a need now, so we accommodate that. And over and above, there has been an enabling environment for researchers, so that these facilities being used for research, and that's why so much of research has been going on, still going on in Matlab, and that's the complete health research center. Barge was maintained in its original shape and placed on land. We towed it from the previous location, we settled it, we maintained it, and we kept it. Many researchers who lived and worked in Barge now had been in the past and now and future world leaders in international health. I don't dare to name the names because there are so many. I won't be able to do any justice to anybody by naming the names of those who lived and worked in the barge. We aspire to convert the barge into a museum with all possible memories preserved. We could not finish that, but I sincerely wish this aspiration becomes a reality in near future. This is an appeal. So this is the journey from Barge to Rural Health Center, from there to our own complex. This is the whole infrastructure, and this is the training facility. The journey took 35 years from a floating barge. Barge always remains on the river and on water, so it is shaky. It might be capsized, it would might get broken, so it was unstable. Now it's footing in mainland with solid foundations, and we believe this is now has its own strong footing, and that probably will continue for many, many years. And we hope that a centenary function would be celebrated. Somebody would celebrate. Some of you might be here to celebrate that also. Now I'll turn my topic to research evolution. Started with the cholera treatment and etc. In 1965, Henry Moseley came in here as the head of the epidemiology section. He decided to establish a demographic surveillance system in connection with conducting cholera vaccine. So initially 112,000 people were included, conducted a census and started collection of vital event. In 1968, DSS population reached to 260,000. Then in 1978, DSS population reduced to 160,000 as vaccine studies were completed. Large population studies were not there, so large population was not required. So it was decided to reduce by 100,000, and so in 1978 it was 160,000. And from Matlab HDSS, there has been many DSS in the world. So I call Henry Moseley as the forefather of HDSS with his kind permission. And now I'll be talking a little bit about HDSS, DSS and HDSS, and I believe I have license from Kim Streetfield to talk on that. In fact, he provided the information and slides. So DSS is now, it started with only demographic surveillance. Now it has geographic information system instituted in 1994. Then in 1978, when we are doing our family planning and population activities, there was the record keeping system, that means health information, and hospital cholera surveillance started in 1966 as soon as the DSS population was defined, and that is still continuing. Data collected under DSS, initially it was birth, death, migration and marital status, cause of death, socioeconomic information, periodic, health information started in 1978, that included reproductive history, immunization, breastfeeding history, selected morbidity like diarrhea and ARI, and GIS was instituted with GPS, location, distance, roads, river, etc. And in 2000, an independent quality control team was instituted that was outside the normal running of the DSS. It was placed directly under my supervision, because there was some, though our DSS data quality was very good, 99% correct, but still then there was question, where is your independent quality assurance? Can you show us the document? So we decided to do that, and now we have this quality control assurance team and assessment team, and independently doing sample basis, they collecting the same data, feeding to the head of Matlab, and then shared with those who are running for further treatment. No change in data. If there are errors are there, but in future errors could be corrected. Matlab DSS provides precise estimates of denominator and sample frame for planning research, and it provides estimates of fertility and mortality, data for impact evaluation of health intervention on infant mortality, child mortality, maternal mortality, etc. Periodic SES data providing tool for monitoring and changes over time in social and economic condition, and data for examination of association between poverty, health, and impact of development programs. The poverty issue is cross-cutting across the developing world, and for any and every research, that component is an essential component. Who are the users of DSS data? Individual level, scientists of ICD DRB, scientists from national and international institutions and organizations, students from national and international institutes, institutional level, university, national and international, research institute, national and international publication. Yearly, DSS published a report. Yearly, we are up to date, I believe, to 2009 data is in press for publication, and this kind of book we publish every year. And we have also village level statistics for community people and for doing scientific research. Example of some earlier studies without DSN, those studies could not be completed. Those initial vaccine trials, disease burden study for cholera, contraceptive distribution project, when we started in 1975, public health services project and fire training. There was a classic study utilizing the DSS data regarding measles, immunization and childhood mortality, and then we have data from cholera from 1966 at the population level. Till now, epidemic and endemic cholera in Bangladesh over 33 years, we wrote that and we published. We have now, through the DSS, valuable cohorts, cohorts of famine cohorts, we call it. Though in 1974 and 75, there was a devastating famine, and the children, babies born at that time, they are still surviving. They are now around 30 years of age, and we hope that these will serve for many research. Maternal nutrition, infant nutrition intervention was there. So there are 3,500 children who are, they form a cohort. Arsenic exposure, I'm going to talk later. So we have a database for arsenic, and over and above, we have third generation population for conducting intergenerational change studies. Survivable of DSS over 40 years. How it survived, why it survived? Because I know of examples where DSS was started and gradually died out, did not survive. I could just mention some of the main reasons why Matlab DSS survives. This is because of high quality data collection and management that scientists have confidence on, supportive environment for research, continued flow of research. At some point, investigators from ICD used to wait to start research in Matlab. Some of them, because we could not accommodate all those at one time. So they were in a queue to start their project. They waited that they will do in Matlab. And it has provided answer to issues relevant for developing world. After survival 40 years, we have celebrated it in a real festive manner. You can see the pictures taken during that time. This is current leader of EGSF is Kim Stitzel is here, along with our division director. And here you can see also our old people like Shafiqul Islam. Here is Mr. Sardar, who has been the manager for DSS for about almost 40 years now. Then cholera vaccine and patient management. I should talk a little bit about that. Cholera is a very serious medical emergency, I told you. It can kill within few hours. Initially, there were no belief on modern treatment. Traditional treatment was the norm by religious healers and others. Field staff motivated for patient to come to PSCL hospital. We placed 10 speedboats at different locations as ambulance to carry patients. Those who came all survived. Reputation spread gradually and patients started coming in. Now we are overwhelmed with patients, both in Dhaka and in Matlab. In Dhaka, I think Baki Grino remember, they had to go to Midwood Hospital to bring patients for conducting studies. No one was coming. Now we are overwhelmed. But this is a humanitarian service also, we are saving many, many lives. Initially, one doctor used to rotate from Dhaka to Matlab on 15 days rotation in 1966. Late Dr. Mizanur Rahman was brave enough to take the decision to be based in Matlab, and that happened during the time of Henry Mosley, and he settled there. He ran the hospital for almost 2 years, single. He used to, on duty, round the clock, manage the patient. I was the second physician, joined in 1968, and we had a work schedule. We worked 7 days a week, and we used to take alternate night duties. There was no electricity, no water supply, no oxygen supply, nothing. We managed patient with hurricane lantern, but case fatality remained at the time less than 1%, which is still also prevailing. So we too managed the hospital until 1974. And from 1974 on, we started gradually recruiting doctors. Now we have a fair number of doctors who could have routine duties, 8-hour shift. That's the center's rule and norms. So it's reverted to the normal norms and rules. During War of Liberation, Matlab was not safe. Pakistan Army took camp on the top of our hospital building. We were, and the Mukti Bahini, Liberation Forces, was all around. We were at risk of crossfire. Dr. Mizan and myself continued running there. Everybody else left, but we were at great risk. So the then PSCL decided to evacuate us. They sent a launch with Red Cross flag, and we were evacuated sometimes in June when it became impossible. Since after that, Dr. Mizan and I used to take 15 days shift. We used to travel by private transport, taking motor launch, country boat, reached Matlab, stayed 15 days, and came back. And after we came back, we performed our duties at the Dhaka hospital. And of course, DSS we continued until October 1971, and late came Aziz, late Mr. Mutin, Abdul Sattar, Rajur Rahman, Alim, all were part of our team. They also used to accompany us. So we were two teams. One team was led by Mizan and one team by myself, and we were doing it for the whole War of Liberation. And hospital remained uninterrupted. During 1971, those who remember, there was a severe cholera epidemic in that year. Throughout the whole region, whole Bengal, in the refugee camp in India, there was a severe cholera. We had in Matlab severe cholera epidemic, so many lives were saved, and the ORS were given by Dilip Mohanlavis a natural trial in the refugee camps and etc. Community very much appreciated our continuing running the hospital, and after liberation, when we went back with restarting, they cooperated. I am very grateful to the community. So I'll show you some of the cholera surveillance data since 1966 based on a population rate. So nowhere in the world one can have that. So this is the classical cholera, which was in the early, before 1974. Then the Altor came and continued. Classical reappeared, continued in 1992, and 93. The 0139 Bengal came in, continued some years, died down. At least we are not detecting it. We are not detecting classical, and this is the total cholera rate. But Altor is persisting with different, probably little bit of different toxins. Ferdowsi Qadri and others will be able to comment better on that. But what I want to stress in here is that we exactly know the cholera rate per thousand population in Matla, and it varies from very low level, maybe 0.5 to about 6.5 or 7 per thousand. So you can see the variation, year-to-year variation. Let me now talk a little bit about cholera vaccine studies. As I already mentioned, cholera vaccine trial was one of the main objectives to establish Matlab. First few studies were with parenteral cholera vaccine, and vaccine used to be given by jet gun. This is somebody is giving the vaccine. So after 5 trials with wholesale component and 1 with toxoid, results were ineffective as a public health intervention. These results led to the withdrawal of parenteral vaccine by WHO. So our work during those period of time, during 1964 to 74, 75, helped in policy formulation. I'll be talking only few research results which has helped to make new policy adaptation, adjustment, or change policies. Cholera vaccine is one example. And these policies help saving huge amount of scarce resource and stimulated for other vaccines. So in 1985, we conducted a study, landmark study with cholera vaccine, oral cholera vaccine, wholesale component and wholesale B subunit component. David Sack and John Clemens led the trial that was done during 85 to 89, and that gave very encouraging result about very high grade protection for 6 months. David, correct me if I am wrong, it was almost 86%. And then overall efficacy was 50%, but less in children, more in adult. WHO now recommends this vaccine, at least they said cholera vaccine should be given in certain circumstances. We hope they will adopt a policy for immunization against cholera by a policy for endemic countries. And this vaccine, in the name of Dukoral, is licensed in Bangladesh and many other countries. It is available in Bangladesh. Only wholesale component research was done with that in Vietnam, and finally in Calcutta, they found similar results with the combined vaccine. That's very encouraging, and further research is needed before that vaccine could be recommended, because there are many procedures, WHO pre-qualification, all other procedures are needed, but I hope these would be coming in future. I want to talk a minute about the problems faced during the cholera vaccine, particularly during the oral cholera vaccine. I'll finish in 10 minutes. We recruited about 100 people, new staff from the locality, and we faced problems after we recruited, because there were about 500 or so. We could not recruit everybody. There was a problem. When we started the vaccine, they initiated sub-community problem which became little bit of beyond our control. Then Dr. Baki Grino, accompanied by these and health advisor, went to Matlab. Dr. Grino, myself, Mr. Bashir, and minister. We took the vaccine in front of a big crowd, and we said that this is safe, we are drinking. So then we could resolve that. After we finished this, after about a year, we had to lay off the staff. Again, we faced problem. David Sack faced those problems by himself, but we could overcome. But this is not unusual. But in general, community was very supportive, and we conducted a rotavirus vaccine trial in Matlab with Rotatec. This is first vaccine in Gavi eligible countries in Asia. The result is here. It provided first year 45% efficacy, second year 39% overall almost 2 years, for 2 years it was 42 or 43% efficacy. This helped in taking decision by WHO to recommend these rotavirus vaccine for developing countries or resource poor countries. Then we are now continuing an effectiveness study with the Rotarix other vaccine, which we did some immunogenicity study. So by introducing the vaccine in Matlab, we have divided the whole disease area into two. One cluster receiving vaccine, the other cluster not receiving. We will be evaluating this. This will probably again we'll see how this vaccine is preventing hospitalization and disease. Then use of oral rehydration solution, ORS were discovered in 1968. That's a discovery in last century, the number one. And so David Nailin, Richard Cash, Majid Mullah, and Rafiqul Islam, they made that great discovery, which is saving lives, would continue to save lives. After this vaccine was developed, this ORS was developed, Henry Moseley decided that this should be immediately applied to the Matlab hospital, because IV fluid had to be carried from Dhaka to Matlab, so we started using this, though Dhaka hospital did not introduce this. In Matlab we introduced, we faced problem using ORS, nurses did not like it, patient did not like it, community did not like it, community complained, oh, your standard of treatment has fallen. So but we motivated and finally we overcome. And then we applied this in the community and we tried to find local solutions like Lobangur, and we also did that. That study also showed that it was safe, effective, and we developed a system of the mothers called Bari mothers, and that Bari mother system is very relevant for other developing countries. And so this diarrhea management strategy through Bari mother helped in developing strategy for introducing ORS in the community. BRAC implemented it for 10 years by their workers in Bangladesh. Population control, we conducted a first study with contraceptive distribution, and that showed that there is prospect, but it did not sustain. We tried to find out the reason why. We found that workers were illiterate, not credible, insufficient planning, minimum training, and it was a commodity distribution rather than service distribution. No monitoring of side effects, lack of alternative methods. Based on that, we again started a comprehensive maternal child health family project in end of 1977, and we initially took care of those lessons we learned from the earlier studies, and we introduced the cafeteria approach, which helped in convincing mothers or couples to accept those methods. And we introduced the health record system at that point in time. You can see in the picture that CHW giving vaccine, injectable contraceptives, and the paramedics given healthcare treatment. And these are some of the pictures which showing the different component of services. And this is the Jim Phillips was also came after 2 years when we had the study, and that study helped us to introduce this in the government through the extension project. And that contraceptive study had policy implications for Bangladesh, and Bangladesh adopted our system, and with that system Bangladesh achieved success in population control. And here you can see some of our supervisors. So this is for monitoring and supervision. We had very efficient system of monitoring and supervision. And what it showed, it demonstrated high acceptance and continuation of family planning method, high coverage of EPI, high use of MCH services, achieved substantial reduction of fertility and childhood mortality, led to the initiation of extension project for in collaboration with the government, and this assisted Bangladesh to achieve success in fertility control and child survival, and other developing countries adopted it and adapted. Pakistan, Ghana accepted the project with their own. This you can see the contraceptive use prevalence rate from here. It went to where it was almost 70, around 70%. But now there is some decline, but still it is a very high level. And this shows the trend in total fertility. You can see from about more than 6.5, it came down to less than 3. The similar reduction into TFR occurred in government service area also, but later government caught up. Government adopted and our methods, and that helped. This is under 5 mortality, similar trend. This is government area, this is ICDD area before the MCH project. So again, there is a difference have gradually narrowed down, and this is in terms of life expectancy at birth. You can see that it is for the females, it is over 70 years now. That is very encouraging. For males, is reaching 70. This is infant mortality. Again, similar trend. First reduction in service area, government area is coming down, but still there is a gap. This is in terms of neonatal mortality. The gap is bigger in here, but here also there was not a continuous trend. There was some ups and downs, but finally it started falling down and falling down. It definite reduction now. This is maternal neonatal health. We conducted based on our previous experience. We did this study, and the objective was to increase facility delivery, reduce perinatal, neonatal, and infant mortality, and under 5 mortality, and decrease the gap between poor and rich in use of facility services. And we introduced these components of intervention, that is essential newborn care, essential obstetric care, home-based life-saving skills, and supervision and monitoring. These are some of the services we are providing in Matlab through the MNCH project. And you can see the difference in the facility delivery. This is the government area, and this is our area. It has reached almost 70%, almost 70%. This is very encouraging, and probably from these on, others could think of how in the whole country it could be taken down. And this is in terms of perinatal mortality. You can see the gap. The government service area is increasing, and here there is a definite pattern of this project. This project has been going on for almost 3 years. We'll finish this end of December. We'll see little further decline, and this will also have a serious implication, and serious thinking could be given for how to utilize this information and knowledge for improvement. And this is research on zinc. There was a zinc effectiveness study which showed that there was a reduction in incidence and prevalence of diarrhea, duration of diarrhea, by giving zinc during diarrhea for 14 days, and then there was about 50% reduction in mortality. So that helped in policy formulation for taking zinc including in diarrhea management through the whole developing world. And then we did another study to see difference between 5 days and 10 days, and we found that it was equivalent, 5 days and 10 days zinc in terms of reduction in under 5 mortality. The kind of diarrhea over 90 days. Yeah. And then that equivalence study would help in triggering research in other areas so that they could take these on. Arsenic is a catastrophe in Bangladesh. So we did some work. We screened 167,000 people, and we measured the tubules and etc. And we initiated mitigation activities with the government. You can you can see the kind of lesions the people have with arsenic. And then this is the where it is not safe. This is very high percentage. It is over 60% at unsafe level. And this is in terms of arsenic during pregnancy, and this is the infant mortality survival. So you can see where those who are exposed to less than 50 and more than 50, survival is, there is a wide difference. So I'm not going to give the summary finding. The chronic disease, we did utilizing the famine cohort, we did a chronic study to see the impaired glucose tolerance between these groups who were born during famine and who were born before and after. And you can see there has been 3 times higher risk of developing impaired glucose tolerance, and this was significant. And what is the knowledge we could give to the people from the Matlab research? There was more than 1,000 publications based on Matlab. There has been another bibliography up to 1990. We need another one probably. Then over 500 scientists utilized Matlab data. Many PhD and master students wrote theses using Matlab data. Many undergraduate and graduate students received hands-on training on DSS, clinical studies, and other epidemiological studies. And this is the kind of community support we have. A gentleman donated 51 decibel of land to starting our sub-center. And that's the sub-center we established based on that land. And this was opened informally, and German government provided funds. So that's the formal opening, and Baki Green should be in here somewhere. Yes, he's there. And this is the international attention on Matlab. This is the Minister of Development Corporation from the Netherlands. She visited Matlab, and in that visit she declared doubling of funds to ICDDRB. And this is the head of Melinda and Bill Gates, who visited in 2008, and ICDDRB getting good amount of resource, particularly for cholera vaccine, huge amount of fund from Melinda and Gates. And I want to share this with you. I don't know how many would recognize this 3 gentlemen. You can probably recognize me, but these 3 gentlemen, I don't know whether you recognize or not. I recognize very well. This is Dr. Khaliquzzaman, who is here. This is Abdullah Baki, and this is Esquerra. And all 3 started in 79, 80 with me, and now they are the world-class senior scientists and epidemiologists home and abroad. Baki is professor at Hopkins. Jaman is a leading senior scientist in epidemiology research. Esquerra on nutrition, senior scientist. We have other example. One in professor in other university. Dewan Samsul Alam, who also started. I don't like to mention of everybody. There has been lot of evaluation of scientists from Matlab. I am very pleased to see this development. And this is what the strength of resource of Matlab Health Research Center. You can see the committed number of staff. This is the infrastructure. This is the supportive community I showed you. And this is the continuation of leadership. You have seen this before also, but that's the resource of Matlab. And before I close, I want to tell you that, and I want to acknowledge the thousands, hundreds of thousands of community people who supported us. They contributed, participated in our research, donated land, donated and supported in many ways, and then the hundreds of staff, committee staff who work, the hundreds of international and national scientists who work over there, and they all utilize this, and also the center's management, donor community, all supported. With that support, we could reach up to this stage. And you can see the rays of hope spreading among these children in Matlab. And I hope These rays of fire should also be spreading through Bangladesh, not only Bangladesh, the other developing countries. And I urge you all to support Matlab and ICDDRB for its continuation for many, many years, and as I told you in the beginning, for celebrating the centenary celebration. With this, I thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yunus. Nobody but you could have done such a great job. We have time for 2 questions or 2 comments.
Thank you, Dr. Yunus. That was magnificent. And I think so many people in the world, as you mentioned, know Matlab, even those who don't know Bangladesh or this part of the world. And I think few people realize what the smiling faces of the children at the end really mean and how much the community has been involved. So it gives me great pleasure to hear you close your talk giving the wonderful praise to the community from which all of this wonderful science and good health has blossomed under your great leadership in Matlab. So thank you so much for giving us this afternoon.
My pleasure.
I guess I should say something. You know, some people seem to give me a lot of credit for some of this, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, when I came here, I was just building on all of the talent and capability that was already here in the country. None of this could be done without the people like Dr. Yunus and so many others that were there. So that, you know, and even when I worked on the demographic surveillance system, you thought about the field workers that were there. I thought the tremendous capability and the energy, the enthusiasm, the high level of morale they had really made the program work, even right through the war. I mean, this was something that was unique that, you know, when we think about the institution we have today, it was because the staff there and here in Dhaka as well continued right through the war when all the foreigners had left, all the money had left, but they were just continuing to provide the service and the operation. It was that kind of continuity and energy, effort, and enthusiasm that made it what it was. And so some of us have come, we spent very short time here, really, when you think about 3 decades out in Matlab. And what I think we were doing, we were just facilitating the ability for all of you here and all of those who have contributed over the decades in making this institution what it is. And one thing we can be assured is that it's going to continue to be a strong institution because of all the people here who sustain the work and the energy to make this institution go. Those of us from around the world, we come and go, and we get a lot of credit for doing that, but we're really building on your shoulders, and so I thank you very much for all of you have done.
Dr. Yunus, this is a token of appreciation, and Swa also has towards Hannah something great.
Thank you.